and like you said, they definitely have the schedule this year to, especially out of conference, to be able to develop those guys and probably make a little more, a few more mistakes than you typically would. I took a look because I just saw an article of Michigan's out of conference schedule, and this year and next year are pretty soft. I think that's a good term for it, but Michigan does have, I mean, they have Oklahoma in a home and home, if I'm not mistaken, Texas in a home and home. And I think those start in 2024 with one of the teams. I think it's Texas first, and then Oklahoma the following year, and then Texas, Oklahoma in that home and home, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't
But
have it in front of me. I know that those are out there, those two series. And, part of me wants to bash Michigan for their non-conference schedule. So, because I just think that that shouldn't happen, that
yeah,
you're not playing anyone in the non-conference. But half of me wants to say, well, there must be some kind of explanation. And I don't know what that is, because Michigan doesn't dodge teams. They're not out to build an easy schedule. I've certainly attacked other schools across the country because they have a history, they have a trend of figuring out, okay, how could we, comprise the easiest non-conference schedule possible and puff up our record. So I do take my shots at some other programs, but Michigan, that's not been Michigan. They schedule that one difficult non-conference opponent that's pretty standard, but for whatever reason, they weren't able to find a match for these two seasons or whatever it was. But you know, I don't like to see that for anybody of Michigan's caliber, to kind of skate through three non-conference games that are what they are, and they really don't tell us much. And they should be playing somebody, especially since the Washington game, not to Michigan's, not to blame Michigan, not their responsibility, but that didn't turn out to be the opponent that it should have been either. So it's been, I don't know who they played in 2019. They played Notre Dame, and I don't know if they played anybody else. I think that was their one big non-conference game in 2019. So 2020 was an all-conference schedule. So they haven't played anybody of note since 2019. It's going to be like 4 consecutive seasons.
yeah, it's tough because on the what I will give, like you mentioned, it's not Michigan's fault that Washington wasn't great, but also I believe the year before they were supposed to play, I think that was half of the home and home, and they had the COVID year, so that ended up being just a conference only schedule. So they kind of threw things off a little bit, but like you said, there are teams. I mean, there are teams that do it. So it's difficult to bash them because, like, I think we're in the same boat of, I like to see those out of conference matchups and like to see those ranked teams play each other. So that's always an exciting thing to see. But I guess at the end of the day, you just got to take advantage of it. I think the worst part for me would be to have this type of out of conference schedule and then end up with 2 or 3 losses. Like that's the thing you would look at and just say, really, like you had this opportunity where you're almost gifted 3 wins, and you end up, in what, 6 or 9 other games you drop 3. Like that's not ideal, but I know the SEC catches a lot of flack of the week before rivalry week. They get the get the cupcakes and things like that. So I'm not gonna go too crazy about it, but yeah, would especially this year, and you get it 2 years in a row. So you'd love to come out of it a Big Ten champion, and really be able to show, like, hey, we are really good. It's not just our schedule. Like, we played well. We were one of the top 4 teams or top 5 teams in the country, and we were able to show that we were indeed that, and it wasn't just a soft schedule of why we got to where we did.
For
Right.
sure. Yep.